Now back to the show. This is You and the Law with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. In studio are Scott Stanley and Kevin Gorley from the law firm Murphy Batista here in Vancouver. We're talking insurance law and claims. And guys, we've talked about some pretty legitimate areas of insurance claims and how to go about seeking a lawyer and advice and how to take on a big monolithic insurance company and win. But, you know, they're not all straight up and down and forward. And I want to find out about claims that I think we see more of them in America than we do up here, but claims that could be sort of borderline frivolous. Why are they taking this to court? I mean, I remember that case, and I don't know whether you do or not. If to go back to the 90s, there was the McDonald's coffee lady case. That was an American case, wasn't it, Scott?
It was, yeah.
But remind us, there was a Seinfeld episode, so a lot of people are going, oh, right. But remind us of the specifics of the case, because there was a lot of dough involved in that.
Well, everybody, if you talk to people now about the McDonald's coffee lady, they just think silly lady spilt coffee on herself, sued McDonald's, it was her fault, and got millions upon millions of dollars. And isn't that a silly thing? And we need to get rid of these lawsuits.
And that's pretty much a common reaction. That's what, almost 20 years ago now, right?
And that's because the insurance company put this case forward as an emblem of why we need tort reform, why we need to take away people's rights to sue. And this is what they did in the United States. But what they forgot to tell when they were spreading this message and having, Seinfelds do parodies of this on their shows, is what they forgot to tell is the reality of the case. It was a real case. It was not a frivolous case. And this is what it's really about. The lady that was burned was Stella Liebeck. She was an elderly lady, and she and her son pulled up to their car to get a coffee. And she bought a cup of coffee. I think it was for about, under a buck. Mm-hmm. And the coffee was 88 degrees Celsius. So that's enough to cause third-degree burns in 2 seconds.
Okay.
Coffee's normally sold at 60 degrees Celsius. And so she did spill the coffee on herself, and that happens. People spill coffee.
Well, especially at the drive-through window, for crying out loud.
And she spilled it on her lap, and she... I believe she suffered burns on about 22% of her body, over her genitals, very, very nasty injury. And so she went to trial, and she was awarded about $150,000 or $160,000 for her damages, for her medical bills, which was not unreasonable, and then awarded about $2.7 million for punitive damages. Now, when it got into pop culture, it was $5 million, $10 million. She got $1 billion. Mm-hmm. But she didn't. She got $2.7 million, and the judge actually rolled that back to about $600,000. But what people don't hear is that McDonald's, for the 10-year period before this unfortunate accident, they'd received 700 complaints of people being scalded by this coffee.
Okay. Right.
And the jury decided, hey, we need to send a message to McDonald's, because the person that gave evidence on behalf of McDonald's said we didn't think this was important enough to change.
700 claims doesn't constitute a body of evidence? Holy smokes.
So that's why we have Tort Lied. It's meant to direct behaviors, make them safe, maintain order, and punitive damage is there to discourage certain behavior. And that's why this was done. It was meant to discourage McDonald's from letting this practice continue.
And just another quick legal thing here, Kevin, and there's a distinction. The jury awarded this woman, the McDonald's coffee lady, $2.something million, and the judge rolled it back to several $100,000. Does that happen frequently, where the jury emotionally sides with the plaintiff and says, oh man, here's all the money in the world, and the judge goes, no, wait just a second, that's a little over the top. Does that happen fairly regularly?
It can happen. It happened in the Exxon Valdez spill in Alaska, where I think they had awarded $500 million or something against Exxon, and the Supreme Court ultimately scaled that back. So it does happen on occasion, yeah.
Okay, and but usually in Canada, do we have these scenarios where we have an insurance battle fought out in a courtroom involving a jury, Scott, or is it usually just the parties and a judge?
Most insurance claims will be dealt by judge alone.
Okay.
Because certainly in BC, there's restrictions on the type of cases that juries can hear. And if a case involves the interpretation of a contract mostly, then those are the types of cases that are going to be typically heard by a judge.
Okay. And sorry, go ahead.
And it makes sense, because I think lawyers and even judges struggle to understand these insurance contracts. And it just wouldn't be appropriate, in my opinion, in most cases, to have regular people try to interpret these contracts. So that makes sense.
It's not like a murder trial where it's all the facts are out and you make your decision based on all of that. In insurance law, there are just reams of really highly technical jargon and material to deal with, Kevin, right?
Yeah, exactly. It can be more contractual interpretation than deciding whether or not you believe this witness or that witness.
Okay. Witnesses. Do you, when you take a case to trial, do you, when you present witnesses on behalf of your client, there's, again, I may just watch too much American TV, but down there they seem to have a category of people essentially who are professional witnesses who go around literally from trial to trial making good bucks and saying whatever needs to be said. Do we have that category in Canada, Scott?
Sterling, we have some doctors in BC who make $500,000 to $1 million doing exactly what you've just described. They've long since been practicing doctors. They're basically professional witnesses.
And they are appearing on behalf of insurance companies or on the behalf of plaintiffs?
Well, I think these characters exist for both. There's a group of doctors that provide their opinion and advice mostly to plaintiffs and their lawyers.
Okay.
And similarly, there's a group of doctors that really only give advice to insurance companies. And that's... we don't deal with those doctors. We want someone who's going to tell us what the case is all about, right down the middle, straight and honest.
We only have a couple of seconds left. This hour has taken about 5 minutes. It's been an absolutely fascinating conversation. Kevin Gorley and Scott Stanley, thank you both for coming in. Remind us, please, Scott, of the web address and how people can get in touch with you.
MurphyBatista.com. Two T's, BATTISTA.com.
We'll do this again in a few weeks. And by the way, if you want to send it, if you've been listening for the last hour and go, but guys, you didn't talk about this, send us an email. Where should they send that email to, Scott?
Stanley@MurphyBatista.com.
Okay, and you'll bring them with you to our next program, and we'll maybe include a few of them in our conversation.
Happy to do that.
Red Robinson and the Diner next on AM 650.